Latency, the frustrating delay between when you play a note and you actually hear it. If you ever recorded with a keyboard or electronic drums and you experience latency, you know it's a game stopper. Even if everything else is set up correctly, you're battling with a delay that shouldn't be there. I've wasted countless hours while recording due to latency, and in this video, I'll show you how I fixed it. Latency happens when your system needs time to process sound. Your plugins, buffer size, and audio interface all add delay between what you play and what you hear. When you hit a note on your keyboard or drums, the signal travels through your interface into Logic Pro, where plugins and system load can introduce extra delay. The more processing your system has to do, the longer it takes to get your sound back out to your headphones or speakers. One of the biggest contributors to latency is your I/O buffer size. You'll find this in Logic Pro's audio preferences. A low buffer size, like 64 or 128 samples, means your system processes audio faster, which reduces latency while recording. But a lower buffer size also demands more from your CPU. If your system can't keep up, you might hear pops, glitches, or even Logic dropout warnings. For recording, stay between 64 and 128 samples. For mixing, when latency doesn't matter, you can increase it to 512 or 1024 to reduce CPU stress. Another major latency source is plugin delay. Plugins like reverbs, linear phase EQs, or look-ahead limiters require extra time to process audio. Logic tries to keep everything in sync, but when you're playing live, these plugins can introduce delay that you feel when you hit a note. That's where Logic's Low Latency Mode helps. It temporarily bypasses delay, including plugins, while you're tracking. The third major factor is system load. The more tracks, plugins, and virtual instruments you're running, the harder your Mac is going to work. Once your CPU hits the limit, Logic may drop audio or freeze. You can monitor this in the CPU meter, in Logic or Activity Monitor in Mac OS. Try freezing tracks, disabling plugins, or increasing your buffer size if you're pushing your system too hard. One of the fastest fixes for latency is setting Low Latency Mode. If you don't see it, right-click on the toolbar and select Customize Control Bar and Display, like this. Now scroll down and enable Low Latency Mode. Now you can just click on the lightning bolt and Logic will temporarily bypass delay in heavy plugins, giving you real-time responsiveness while you record. It won't affect your final mix, it's just for smoother tracking. Another major factor in latency is your I/O buffer size. This controls how much time your computer has to process incoming audio. You may set your I/O buffer size like this. Lower settings mean faster response, but your system has to work harder. 128 or 64 samples is usually a great balance for recording. You'll get minimal latency without overloading your CPU. But if you drop to 32, you might start to hear crackle or pops, especially if your session is using lots of tracks or plugins. On the other hand, a higher buffer size, like 512 or 1024, is great for mixing when low latency doesn't matter as much and you want the system to run smoothly. The best time to use low latency mode is when you're tracking or jamming. But when it's time to mix, you can turn it off so you can hear your full plugin chain. Remember, to reduce latency, freeze any tracks you're not actively recording. This will save your CPU. And disable any heavy plugins like reverb or tape sims while tracking. And your interface matters. I use the Focusrite Scarlett 18i20 for rock solid low latency and direct monitoring. This means the interface lets me hear my input signal, like my keyboard or drum kit, before it passes through the computer, so I get zero delay monitoring, even if my session is running a heavy load. Latency doesn't have to kill your recording, production, or jam session. With the right tools and a few smart settings, you can stay in the groove and focus on the music.